आसी बैठक को समस्त को मोर नमस्कार मु शुभेंद्र मिश्र समस्त स्वागत जनाऊँ आज वक्ता हिसाब रे आमे सुदूर अमेरिका और कनाडा रु दी जन को पाइछु जो माने कि पंडित नीलकंठ दास कर नातुणी सो से माने पंडित नीलकंठ दास जे कि जड़े टीचर हिसाब रे जड़े सोशल रिफॉर्मर हिसाब रे जड़े पॉलिटिकल लीडर हिसाब रे आमे जानिछु ओडिशा पई बहुत काम करछंती से विषय किछि आलोकपात करिवे आमे तांको नातुणी को मोहरु सीधा सड़क शुणिबा नातुणी को परिचय देवा पई मु सौम्य और संजय भाई को अनुरोध करुछि।
धन्यवाद सुरेंद्र भाई। प्रथम कथा आज एपिसोड टी आमे माने गोटे बहुत आशा और अपेक्षा रही आम समस्त वरिण्य पंडित नीलकंठ दास विषय रे जानिबा आउ किछि कथा हो। तेबे आजिर हमर वक्ता रही धरित्री मिश्र मैडम 1950 और 60 दशक भुवनेश्वर बड़ होती जो समय भुवनेश्वर निजे बड़ होता भुवनेश्वर और कटक रे तापरे रेवेन्सा रे फिजिक्स रे एमएससी डिग्री हासिल कला 1966 मसीह मैरीलैंड को प्रवास करते पीएचडी परस्यू करने निमंते तापरे नासा रे काम करिसेंती एवं एनआईएच रे काम करिसेंती मशीन लर्निंग एंड स्पेसक्राफ्ट मिशन प्लानिंग रे जो सब विषय एबे भी मॉडर्न डे टेक्निकल डोमिनेंट अछि से सब ऊपर काम करिसेंती एवं यूएस रे मैरीलैंड रे एक्टिव अछंती ओडिया कम्युनिटीज एंड ऑल रे तेबे ऊपर सर्वोपरि मैडम कर सबुठु श्रेष्ठ परिचय आज भी आम पाइबा आम समस्तंकर वरेण्य विंश शताब्दी ओडिशा तथा ओडिया अस्मितार अद्वितीय प्रतिबिंब पंडित नीलकंठ दास नातुणी आम समस्त स्वागत करवा धरित्री मैडम को। संजय भाई को अनुरोध करी सुमित्रा मैडम का इंट्रोडक्शन दवाई। संजय भाई म्यूट अच्छा।
धन्यवाद समस्त को मोर नमस्कार। श्रीमती सुमित्रा पाढ़ी श्रीमती पाढ़ी पंडित नीलकंठ दास नातुणी अर्थात पंडित नीलकंठ दास पुओ डॉक्टर विक्रम दास झील से 1976 मसीह से ब्रह्मपुर यूनिवर्सिटी मैथमेटिक्स मास्टर्स डिग्री हासिल करने पर विवाह कर 1977 मसीह से कनाडा चली जाइए सेठारे मैथ्स मास्टर यूनिवर्सिटी कंप्यूटर साइंस रे मास्टर्स डिग्री हासिल करी किछि काल आईटी फील्ड रे मध्य कार्य करथिले। से कानोसार जड़े सक्रिय सदस्य भावे ओडिया भाषा और नाटक पर कार्य करुछंती। विशेषकर छोट पिला मानकु ए दिगरे सचेतन करबा पई ताकर प्रयास जारी रही। से सुंदर कविता लेखंती जड़े आशु कवि भाव से बेस जनाशुना। पंडित नीलकंठ स्मृति समितिर से मध्य जड़े सक्रिय सदस्य रही। से बर्तमान कनाडार टोरंटो सहर में रहउछंती। मु अनुरोध करी सुमित्रा कि से प्रथम ताकर वक्तव्य उपस्थापन करिवे।
धन्यवाद। मु बहुत खुशी हेली आज मते सुजोग मिली नीलकंठ विषय किसी कहू बर्तमान कहू चाहूँगी। मु नीलकंठ सान पुओ विक्रम दास बड़ झील। आम आड़े जेजे बापा को बापा और बापा को नना डाकू तेणु मु एठारे पंडित नीलकंठ को बापा बोली कहबी। बापा संस्पर्श रे आसी मु पिला दिने तांको विषय रे केते गुडी कथा जानी थिली सेथरु किछि एठी कहबी।
नानी गोटे मिनिट धरित्री नानी आपनको अनुरोध टिके बेस आपण स्लाइड शोटा ऑन रखंतु। सुमित्रा नानी आपण कहंतु। धन्यवाद।
प्रथम है बापा सबु बेले तांको कर्मस्थान भुवनेश्वर बा कटक इत्यादि रे रहुथिले। मो जेजेमा जहा को आमे माँ डाकू से गाँव रे रहुथिला। बापा केबे घर कथा कि जमीबाड़ी कथा बुझु नथिले। से सब माँ सुचारू रूपे संपन्न करुथिला। मु थरे बापा को पचारिली बापा तमे माँ गाँ को बेले बेले जाओ ना। से एथिरे खूब हसी थिले किंतु बापांकर ग्राम प्रीति बहुत थिला। मोर मने अछि पिला दिने से बाचस्पति थिबा बेले मु तांको संगे भुवनेश्वर रु गाँ को आसुथिली। से दिन प्रथमाष्टमी थिला। मु प्रथम संतान होइथिबारु मो पई जामा किना हबार स्थिर हला किंतु मु भुवनेश्वर रे भल दुकान अछि कहिले मध्य से सुनिले नाही। କହିଲେ ଆମ ଗାଁ ଦୋକାନ ଭଲ। ଶେଷରେ ମୋ ମନକୁ ନ ପାଇଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଅଧିକା ପଇସା ଦିଆଇ ଗାଁ ଦୋକାନରୁ ଜାମା କିଣା ହେଲା। ଆମ ଘରେ କିଛି ଭଲ ଜିନିଷ ଦେଖିଲେ ସେ ଗାଁକୁ ନବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଥିଲେ। ଗାଁକୁ ଆସିବା କ୍ଷଣି ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କ ସଙ୍ଗେ ମିଶି ଗ୍ରାମର ଚାଷବାସ ଅବସ୍ଥା ଓ ଲୋକଙ୍କର ଦୁଃଖ ସୁଖ ବୁଝିବାରେ ନିଜକୁ ହଜାଇ ଦେଉଥିଲେ। ପଣ୍ଡିତ ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠ ପାଶ୍ଚାତ୍ୟ ସଭ୍ୟତାକୁ ସମ୍ମାନ ଦେଖାଉଥିଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଅନୁକରଣ କରୁନଥିଲେ। ମୋର ଜନ୍ମର 2-3 ମାସ ପୂର୍ବରୁ ମୋର ନନା ଉଚ୍ଚଶିକ୍ଷା ପାଇଁ ଯୁକ୍ତରାଷ୍ଟ୍ର ଆମେରିକାକୁ ଆସିଥିଲେ। ସେ କ୍ୱିନ୍ ମେରୀ ଜାହାଜରେ ଆସିଥିଲେ। ମୋର ଜଣେ ସମ୍ପର୍କୀୟ ଦଦେଇ ମୋ ନାମ ମେରୀ ବୋଲି ଦେଇଥିଲେ। ସେତେବେଳେ ବାପା ଚିଡ଼ି ଯାଇ କହିଥିଲେ, ଆମର କ'ଣ ନାମ ନାହିଁ? ସାହେବାଣୀଙ୍କ ନାମ ଦବା କ'ଣ ଦରକାର? କିନ୍ତୁ ବାପା ପାଶ୍ଚାତ୍ୟ ସଭ୍ୟତାକୁ ଯଥାର୍ଥ ସମ୍ମାନ ଦଉଥିଲେ। ଥରେ ମୋ ବୋଉ ବାପାଙ୍କୁ କହିଲା, ଆମ ଗଣିତଜ୍ଞ ବାଣଭଟ୍ଟ ଓ ଲୀଳାପତି ଯେଉଁ ସବୁ ସୂତ୍ର ବାହାର କରି ଅଙ୍କ କଷୁଥିଲେ, ଗ୍ରୀସର ପିଥାଗୋରସ୍ ସେହିପରି ସବୁ କରି ପଶ୍ଚିମ ଦେଶର ଅଙ୍କଶାସ୍ତ୍ର ସୃଷ୍ଟି କରିଛନ୍ତି। ସମସ୍ତେ ପିଥାଗୋରସ୍ ଥିଓରମ୍ ଆଦି କହୁଛନ୍ତି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଲୀଳାବତୀଙ୍କର ନାମ ସେପରି ବିଖ୍ୟାତ ହୋଇନାହିଁ। ତା ଉତ୍ତରରେ ବାପା କହିଥିଲେ, ବାଣଭଟ୍ଟ ଓ ଲୀଳାବତୀ କେବେ? ପିଥାଗୋରସ୍ କେବେ? ବାଣଭଟ୍ଟ ଓ ଲୀଳାବତୀ ଯୀଶୁଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟଙ୍କର ଜନ୍ମର ବହୁତ ପରେ, କିନ୍ତୁ ପିଥାଗୋରସ୍ ଯୀଶୁଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟଙ୍କ ଜନ୍ମ ବା ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଦର ବହୁତ ପୂର୍ବରୁ ଲୋକ। ସବୁଥିରେ କେବଳ ଆମେ ବଡ଼ ଓ ପୁରାତନ କହି ଗର୍ବ କରିବା ଠିକ ନୁହେଁ। ପାଶ୍ଚାତ୍ୟ ସଭ୍ୟତାରୁ ଆମର ବହୁତ କିଛି ଶିଖିବାର ଅଛି। ନାରୀ ଓ ପୁରୁଷ ଉଭୟଙ୍କର କର୍ମସଖା ହୋଇ ଜୀବନ ଅତିବାହିତ କରିବା ଉଚିତ ବୋଲି ସେ ଭାବୁଥିଲେ। ନାରୀ ଶିକ୍ଷାର ପ୍ରସାର ପାଇଁ ସେ ବହୁତ ଧ୍ୟାନ ଦେଇଥିଲେ। ମୋର ବୋଉ 14 ବର୍ଷରୁ ବାହା ହୋଇ ତାଙ୍କ ଘରକୁ ବୋହୂ ହୋଇ ଆସିଥିଲା। ସେ ତାର ଶିକ୍ଷା ପାଇଁ ସବୁ ବନ୍ଦୋବସ୍ତ କରିଥିଲେ। ଗାଁରେ ଗୋଟାଏ ରକ୍ଷଣଶୀଳ ପରିବାରର ବୋହୂ ହୋଇ ମଧ୍ୟ ସେ ତାଙ୍କ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ପାଠ ବିଷୟ ଆଲୋଚନା କରୁଥିଲା। ପଢାପଢି କରିବାକୁ ସେ ତାଙ୍କଠାରୁ ସବୁବେଳେ ଉତ୍ସାହ ପାଉଥିଲା। ଏପରିକି କବୟତ୍ରୀ କୁନ୍ତଳା କୁମାରୀ ସାବତଙ୍କୁ ଲେଖାଲେଖି କରିବା ପାଇଁ ବାପା ସବୁବେଳେ ପ୍ରେରଣା ଦେଇ ଚିଠି ଲେଖୁଥିଲେ। ବାପା କିଛି ଅସୁବିଧା ହେଲେ ରାଗି ଯାଆନ୍ତି। ତାଙ୍କ ରାଗ ପିଲାଙ୍କ ରାଗ। ରାଗିଲେ ମୁହଁ ନାଲି ପଡିଯାଏ, ସେ ଥରି ଉଠନ୍ତି। କିନ୍ତୁ ଯଦି ତାଙ୍କର ଭୁଲ ଥାଏ, ଭୁଲରେ ରାଗୁଛନ୍ତି ବୋଲି ତାଙ୍କୁ ବୁଝାଇ ଦେଲେ ସେ ଲଜ୍ଜିତ ହୋଇ ମତେ ଆଗରୁ ସେ କଥା କାହିଁ କହିଲ ନାହିଁ ବୋଲି କହନ୍ତି। ଥରେ ତାଙ୍କର ଜଣେ ପୁତୁରାଙ୍କ ସଙ୍ଗେ ଘରର କ'ଣ ସମସ୍ୟା ନେଇ ଯୁକ୍ତି ହେଉଥିଲା। ସେ ରାଗି କରି ପୁତୁରାକୁ କହିଲେ, ତୁ ଗୋଟାଏ ଗଣ୍ଡ ମୂର୍ଖ। ତାଙ୍କ ପୁତୁରା ଉତ୍ତର ଦେଲେ, କକେଇ, ତୁମେ ଜଣେ ପଣ୍ଡିତ ମୂର୍ଖ। ସେ ନିଜର ଦୋଷ ଦେଖିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରନ୍ତି ଓ ନିଜର ଭୁଲ ବୁଝିଲେ ଯେଉଁ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତି ଉପରେ ରୋଷ କରିଥାନ୍ତି ତାକୁ କ୍ଷମା ମାଗନ୍ତି। ଛୋଟ ବଡ଼ ପର ଆପଣାର ତାଙ୍କଠାରେ କିଛି ନଥାଏ। ବାପାଙ୍କ ଗଭୀର ଈଶ୍ୱର ଭକ୍ତି ଥିଲା ଓ ସେ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥ ଧର୍ମ ଓ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥଙ୍କର ମହାତ୍ମ୍ୟ ସବୁଠାରୁ ବଡ଼ ଧର୍ମ ଉଚ୍ଚତରର ବୋଲି ଭାବୁଥିଲେ। ସେ ବିଷୟରେ ତାଙ୍କର ବହୁତ ଗବେଷଣା ଓ ଲେଖାମାନ ଅଛି। କିନ୍ତୁ ସେ କେବେ ପୂଜା ଉପାସନା ଇତ୍ୟାଦି କରୁନଥିଲେ ବା ସାଧାରଣତଃ ମନ୍ଦିର ଯାଉନଥିଲେ। ମାତ୍ର ସେ ଚିଠି ଦେଲେ ବା ନାତୁଣୀ ମାନଙ୍କ ବିବାହ ନିମନ୍ତ୍ରଣ ପତ୍ରରେ ସବୁଥିରେ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥ ଭଲ କରନ୍ତୁ ବୋଲି ଲେଖୁଥିଲେ। ତେଣୁ ମୁଁ ଭାବୁଥିଲି, କେବେ ତ ପୂଜା କରୁନାହାନ୍ତି, ଏମିତି ଲେଖୁଛନ୍ତି କାହିଁକି? ପରେ ବଡ଼ ହେଲା ପରେ ତାଙ୍କ ରଚିତ ଭକ୍ତିଗାଥା ପଢିବା ପରେ ମୁଁ ଏ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନର ଉତ୍ତର ପାଇଲି। ଭକ୍ତିଗାଥାର 3ଟି ପଦରୁ ମୁଁ ତାଙ୍କ ମନୋଭାବ ବୁଝିପାରିଥିଲି। ପ୍ରଥମ ପଦଟି ହେଲା, ବିଶାଳ ମନ୍ଦିରେ କାହିଁ ମହାଧର୍ମ ଲୀଳା, ଧାର୍ମିକ ବସଇ ସ୍ଫୀତ କଷାୟ ବସାନି, ଧୂପ ଘଣ୍ଟନା ଦେ କେତେ ଶୃଙ୍ଖଳା, ବିକାଶଇ ପଦେ ପଦେ ଗୁରୁଦେବାର୍ଚନେ, ଅର୍ଚ୍ଚନାର ସେଚ ହଳେ ପଶିବି କି ସେ ମନ୍ଦିରେ, ଲୋଡ଼ିବାର ତମ ସ୍ନେହ ମଙ୍ଗଳ ନିଦାନେ। ତାପରେ ଆଉ 2 ପଦ ଏପରି ଅଛି। ଏଇ 3 ପଦରୁ ମୁଁ ବୁଝିପାରିଲି ସେ ଠାକୁରଙ୍କୁ ଅତି ବିଶ୍ୱାସ କରୁଥିଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ ମନ ମଧ୍ୟରେ ତାଙ୍କର କରୁଣାମୟ ଅସ୍ତିତ୍ୱ ଅନୁଭବ କରୁଥିଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ ମନ୍ଦିରର ଶବ୍ଦ କୋଳାହଳ ରୀତିନୀତି ପୂଜା ଅର୍ଚ୍ଚନା ମାଧ୍ୟମରେ ଈଶ୍ୱରଙ୍କୁ ସେ ସେପରି ନିକଟତର ଅନୁଭବ କରିପାରୁନଥିଲେ। ତେଣୁ ସେ ନିଜେ ମନ୍ଦିର ଯାଇ ଠାକୁରଙ୍କୁ ଭୋଗ ଦେଇ ପୂଜା ଅର୍ଚ୍ଚନା କରିବାର ଦରକାର ବୋଲି ମନେ କରୁନଥିଲେ। ତେଣୁ ଏଭଳି କେତୋଟି ମୁଁ କହିଲି। ଆଉ ଏବେ ନାନୀ ତାର ଅଭିଜ୍ଞତା କହିବ।
ଆଚ୍ଛା, ମୋ କ'ଣ ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ ଅଛି?
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ମୁଁ କହିପାରିବି, ଆପଣ ମାନେ ଶୁଣିପାରୁଛନ୍ତି ମତେ?
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ଆଚ୍ଛା ଆପଣମାନେ ତ ମୋର ନାଁ ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି ଧରିତ୍ରୀ ମୁଁ ପଣ୍ଡିତ ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠଙ୍କର ମଧ୍ୟମା କନ୍ୟା ଇନ୍ଦିରା
ନାନୀ
ଦେବୀଙ୍କର
ନାନୀ ଆପଣ ପ୍ରଥମେ ଟିକେ ସ୍ଲାଇଡ୍ ସେୟାର କରିଦିଅନ୍ତୁ, ସ୍ଲାଇଡ୍ ଶୋଟା ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିଦିଅନ୍ତୁ।
ନାଇଁ ସ୍ଲାଇଡ୍
ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ।
ଶୋଟା କରିବାର ନାହିଁ, ଏଇଟା
ଆଚ୍ଛା
ପରେ
ଆଚ୍ଛା,
ଆମେ
ହଉ ଠିକ୍
ଇଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଡକ୍ସନ ଟା
ଅଛି।
ଏଇଟା ଖାଲି ଥାଉ ସେମିତି।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆଜ୍ଞା, ହଉ।
କାରଣ ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଯିବା ମୁଁ ଅନ୍ କରିବି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ନେକ୍ସଟ ସ୍ଲାଇଡ୍ କୁ ଯିବା ଏଇ ଲାଗେ ଖାଲି ମୁଁ ଆମର ନିଜର ଅନୁଭୂତି ଗୁଡା କହୁଛୁ ତାଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ ଆମର କଣ ଏକ୍ସପିରିଏନ୍ସ ସେଇଟା ଖାଲି କହୁଛୁ ତାପରେ ଆମେ ଫର୍ମାଲି ସ୍ଲାଇଡ୍ ଶୋରେ ତାଙ୍କର ଜୀବନୀ ବିଷୟରେ ସେ କଣ କରିଛନ୍ତି ସେଇଗୁଡା କହିବୁ। ଏଇଟା ଆମ ନିଜର ମତାମତ ନିଜର ଅନୁଭୂତି। ମୋର କହିବାର କଥା ହେଲା ମୁଁ ପିଲାଦିନଟା ପ୍ରାୟ ମୋର ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱରରେ କଟକରେ ହିଁ କଟିଛି। ମୋର 7 ବର୍ଷରୁ 15 ବର୍ଷ ବୟସ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ 8 ବର୍ଷ କାଳ ଆମେ ଅଜାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱରରେ ଏକା ଘରେ ରହୁଥିଲୁ। ପ୍ରଥମେ ମୋ ନନାଙ୍କର ସରକାରୀ ବାସଭବନରେ ଓ ପରେ ଅଜା ଓଡ଼ିଶା ଆସେମ୍ବଲିର ସ୍ପିକର ହେଲା ପରେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ମିଳିଥିବା ବଡ଼ ସ୍ପିକର କୋଠିକୁ ଆମେ ଗଲୁ। ଅଜାଙ୍କର ଶାରୀରିକ ଅବସ୍ଥା ସେତେ ଭଲ ନ ରହୁଥିବାରୁ ଓ ମୋ ଆଈ ପ୍ରାୟତଃ ଗାଁ ଘରର ସବୁ ଦାୟିତ୍ୱ ଛାଡ଼ି ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ଆସି ନ ରହିପାରିବାରୁ ମୋ ବୋଉ ହିଁ ଅଜାଙ୍କର ଦେଖାଶୁଣା କରିବାର ଦାୟିତ୍ୱ ନେଇଥିଲା। ତେଣୁ ମୁଁ ଏଠାରେ ଯାହା କହିବି ତାହା ମୋର ସେଇ ପିଲା ବୟସର ଅନୁଭୂତି। ପ୍ରଥମେ ହେଲା ଅଜା ରାଗି ସ୍ୱଭାବର ବୋଲି ଅନ୍ୟମାନେ କହିବା ସତ୍ତ୍ୱେ ବି ସେ ଆମ 3 ଭାଇ ଭଉଣୀଙ୍କ ଉପରେ କେବେ ବି ରାଗି ନାହାନ୍ତି। ବରଂ ମୋ ବୋଉ ପିଲାଙ୍କୁ ରାଗିଲେ ଅଜା ଡାକିକରି ତାକୁ ମନା କରନ୍ତି। ପିଲାଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ରାଗିବା ଠିକ୍ ନୁହେଁ ବୋଲି କହନ୍ତି। ବୋଉ ଶୁଣି ପଛରେ ହସେ କାରଣ ସତ୍ୟବାଦୀ ସ୍କୁଲର ହେଡମାଷ୍ଟର ହିସାବରେ ଛାତ୍ରଙ୍କ ଭୁଲ ଦେଖିଲେ ତାଙ୍କର ଯେଉଁ ରାଗ ତାହା ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଜଣାଥିଲା। ଗୋଟିଏ ଛୋଟ ଘଟଣା ଏଠାରେ କହିବି। ମୋ ପିଲାଦିନେ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ଆସିବା ଆଗରୁ ଆମେ କଲିକତାରେ ରହୁଥିଲୁ। ମୋ ନନା ସେଠି ଚାକିରି କରୁଥିଲେ। ମୁଁ 3-4 ବର୍ଷର ହୋଇଥିଲା ବେଳେ ଥରେ ଆମେ ପୁରୀ ଆସିଲା ବେଳେ ସେ ବହୁତ ଦିନ ମୁଁ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଦେଖିନଥିଲି। କିନ୍ତୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ମୋତେ ପାଖକୁ ଡାକି ପଚାରିଲେ ମୁଁ କିଏ ଚିହ୍ନିଛୁ ମୁଁ କୁଆଡ଼େ ତାଙ୍କ ନିଶ ଦାଢ଼ିକୁ ନ ଡରି ସାଙ୍ଗେ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ଖୁସିରେ କହିଲି ତମେ ପରା ଅଜା। ମୋର ଦୃଢ଼ ବିଶ୍ୱାସ ବୋଉ ସେଦିନ ମୋତେ 10 ଥର ଖୁସିରେ କହିଥିବ ଯେ ଆଜି ଅଜା ଆସିବେ। ତେଣୁ ମୁଁ ତାଙ୍କୁ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ଚିହ୍ନିକରି କହିପାରିଲି ଯେ ତୁମେ ଅଜା ବୋଲି। ହେଲେ ସେତେବେଳେ ଯାହାକୁ ସାରା ଓଡ଼ିଶା ଓ ଭାରତର ଅନେକ ବିଶିଷ୍ଟ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତି ଚିହ୍ନୁଥିଲେ ସେ ଗୋଟିଏ ଛୋଟ ପିଲା ଚିହ୍ନି ଦେଲା ବୋଲି ଆନନ୍ଦରେ ମୁହ୍ୟ ମନେ ହୋଇଗଲେ। ସେ କଥା ମୁଁ କଲେଜ ପଢ଼ିବା ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ତାଙ୍କୁ ମୁଁ କେମିତି ସାଙ୍ଗେ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ଚିହ୍ନିଦେଲି ବୋଲି ଅନ୍ୟମାନଙ୍କୁ ଅତି ଆନନ୍ଦରେ କହିବାର ମୁଁ ଶୁଣିଛି। ଆପଣମାନେ ଯଦି ତାଙ୍କ କୋଣାର୍କ ବହିର ପ୍ରଥମ ଭାଗ ରାମଚଣ୍ଡୀ ଠାରେ ରାତି ପଢ଼ିଥିବେ ବା କେବେ ପଢ଼ିବେ ଆପଣ ଏହି ଉଦାହରଣରୁ ତାଙ୍କର ପିଲାଙ୍କ ପ୍ରତି ପ୍ରଗାଢ଼ ସ୍ନେହ କିପରି ଥିଲା ସେଇଟା ଅତି ଭଲ ଭାବରେ ଉପଲବ୍ଧି କରିପାରିବେ। ଅଜାଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ ସେ ସମୟରେ ଅନେକ ବଡ଼ ବଡ଼ ସାହିତ୍ୟିକ ରାଜନୀତିଜ୍ଞ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତି ଦେଖା କରିବାକୁ ଆସୁଥିଲେ। ସେ ସମୟରେ ଅଜାଙ୍କ ରୁମ୍ ଆଡ଼େ ଆମର ଛାଇ ନ ପଡ଼ିବାକୁ ମୋ ବୋଉର କଡ଼ା ନିର୍ଦ୍ଦେଶ ଥାଏ। ଆମେ ବି ସେ ବୟସ୍କ ବୃଦ୍ଧ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତିମାନଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ କେବେ ଅନୁସନ୍ଧିତ୍ସୁ ନଥିଲୁ। ଆମ ସାଙ୍ଗସାଥି ସ୍କୁଲ ଖେଳ ଇତ୍ୟାଦି ଆମ ପକ୍ଷରେ ବହୁତ ବେଶୀ ଆକର୍ଷଣୀୟ ଥିଲା। କିନ୍ତୁ ଅନ୍ୟ ସମୟରେ ଅଜା ସନ୍ଧ୍ୟାବେଳେ ବାହାରେ ଲନ୍ରେ ବସି ଆମକୁ ଡାକନ୍ତି। ବିଖ୍ୟାତ ପ୍ରତ୍ନତତ୍ତ୍ୱବିତ୍ ଡକ୍ଟର ପରମାନନ୍ଦ ଆଚାର୍ଯ୍ୟ ଯିଏକି ତାଙ୍କର ବହୁତ ସାଙ୍ଗ ଥିଲେ ସେ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ ଅନେକ ସମୟରେ ବୁଲି ଆସନ୍ତି। ଆମେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ମଉସା ଅଜା ବୋଲି ଡାକୁ। ସେ ଦୁହେଁ ମିଶି ଆମକୁ ନାନା ନକ୍ଷତ୍ର ମଣ୍ଡଳୀ ଧ୍ରୁବତାରା ଇତ୍ୟାଦି ଚିହ୍ନାଇ ଦିଅନ୍ତି। ମଉସା ଅଜା ମୋତେ ନାତୁଣୀ ହିସାବରେ ଅନେକ ଥଟ୍ଟା କଲେ ବି ଅଜା କେବେ କରନ୍ତି ନାହିଁ ବରଂ ଶୁଣି ହସନ୍ତି। ହେଲେ ଅଜା କେବେ ବି ଆମ ଭିତରେ କାରଣ ଆମେ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ରହୁଥିଲୁ ହେଲେ ବି ଆମ ଭିତରେ ବା ତାଙ୍କର ଅନ୍ୟ ନାତି ନାତୁଣୀଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ କେବେ ହେଲେ ତାରତମ୍ୟ କରୁନଥିଲେ। ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କ ପ୍ରତି ତାଙ୍କର ସ୍ନେହ ଓ ବ୍ୟବହାର ସମାନ ଥିଲା। ଗୋଟିଏ ସୁନ୍ଦର ଜିନିଷ ଜଣକୁ ଦେଲେ ସେ ଅନ୍ୟ କାହାର ବି ସେ ପ୍ରତି ସେପରି ଜିନିଷରେ ଆଗ୍ରହ ଥିବ ଭାବି ସେମିତି ଜିନିଷ ମନକୁ ମଗାଇ ତାକୁ ବି ଦେଉଥିଲେ। ଆଉ ଗୋଟିଏ କହିବାର ଜିନିଷ ହେଲା ଅଜାଙ୍କ ପାଖେ ଯେଉଁ ଲୋକମାନେ କାମ କରୁଥିଲେ ତାଙ୍କର ବାମ ପଟରେ ପାରାଲିସିସ୍ ଥିବାରୁ ତାଙ୍କର ଦେଖାଶୁଣା କରୁଥିଲେ ସେମାନେ ଅଜାଙ୍କୁ ପ୍ରାୟ ନିଜର ପିତୃବତ୍ ଜ୍ଞାନ କରୁଥିଲେ ଓ ଅତ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଶ୍ରଦ୍ଧା ଓ ଭକ୍ତି କରୁଥିଲେ। ଅଜାଙ୍କର କ୍ଷଣସ୍ଥାୟୀ କ୍ରୋଧକୁ ସେମାନଙ୍କର ଭ୍ରୂକ୍ଷେପ ନଥିଲା ଓ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଛାଡ଼ି ସେମାନେ ଅନ୍ୟ କୁଆଡ଼େ ଯିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁନଥିଲେ। ଅଜା ବି ସେମାନଙ୍କର ସୁବିଧା ପାଇଁ ଅନେକ ବନ୍ଦୋବସ୍ତ କରିଦେଇଥିଲେ। ପରେ ଜାଣିଲି ଅଜା ଦିଲ୍ଲୀ ପାର୍ଲାମେଣ୍ଟର ମେମ୍ବର ଥିଲାବେଳେ ଗରିବ ଲୋକ ଓ ଶ୍ରମିକ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କର ସୁବିଧା ପାଇଁ ଅନେକ ବିଲ୍ ପାସ୍ କରାଇଥିଲେ। मो आई 10 वर्ष बयस से समय चलनी अनुसार तृतीय श्रेणी पास कर बाहा होइथिला। से परीक्षा वृत्ति पाइथिले मध्य बाहा हेबारु तार पोथिरे डोरी बंधा हला। किंतु तार विचार बुद्धि कर्म दक्षता से सब अतुलनीय थिला। से अल्प बयसर आनंद घर समस्त दायित्व वहन करी अजा को तांको रास्ता रे चलवा को छाड़ी देइथिला। अजा थिले अति ज्ञानी पंडित हेले स्वल्प शिक्षित आई प्रति तांकर गभीर स्नेह और विश्वास प्रमाण आम सब बेले देखा पाउथिलु। आई मझिरे मझिरे साक्षी उपर भुवनेश्वर आसे सेतेबेले अजा अन्य रकम मनीष पलटि जाती। सबुदिन गंभीर मनीषटी हस खुशी रे फाटी पड़ती। बहुत जोक और गाँवली गप मैंने कहती। अजाकर सांसारिक ज्ञान नाई बोले आई पंडित मूर्ख बोली थट्टा करे। आम से सब बहुत उपभोग करूँ। अजाकर दासनायक बही जहाँकि इंग्लिश कवि आल्फ्रेड टेनिसन को इनो गार्डन छाया लिखित से वर्णित स्वामी स्त्री अनावल स्नेह संपर्क निज जीवन में ही प्रतिफलित थिला। मुझे गोटे मजा कथा कही बंद करी। 1957 मसीह राष्ट्रपति राजेंद्र प्रसाद भुवनेश्वर आसी से अजाकर सहकर्मी और प्रिय बंधु थिले। अजा को मिलता पद्मभूषण उपाधिर मेडाल नहीं से अजा को देवाको तांकर स्पीकर बासभवन को आसबे और चा पान करेंगे बोली जणाइले। भारत प्रथम राष्ट्रपति को चा देवाई आम घरे किसी उपयुक्त टी सेट नहीं बोली मो बोर बहुत भाड़ेनी पड़ा और शेष में मर्यादा रखा भाई किसी कप प्लेट किणाला। अजा पारालिसिस जो अर्धसहित अवस्था खटरे बसुले। राजेंद्र प्रसाद आसी गोड़ चिपी देवा बाहर पाखर लोक मैंने अति आश्चर्य हो गले। से राजेंद्र प्रसाद कहले जे एटा तांके पखरे किछि नुआ कथा नुहे। से अजा स्वाधीनता संग्राम बेले हजारीबाग जेल रे पाख पाख कोठरी रे बंदी रहुथिले। से अजा ठार बयस अल्प सान थिले। सेतेबेले अजांकर बात जोर जोगु बेले बेले गोड़ बहुत बिंधुथिला। सेतेबेले राजेंद्र प्रसाद मझिरे आसी अजांक गोड़ चिपी देउथिले। दुखर विषय जे से गोड़ चिपी देवार जो मजा दृश्य बोर कड़ा निर्देश अनुसार आम पिला मैंने उपभोग करने को नथिलु सेठारे उपस्थित नथिलु कारण आमको से रूम को जीवाको पूरा बोर कटकड़ा थिला आम जाई पारि नथिलु। तेणु एमती केते गुडे बहुत हास्यरसकर घटना रे बहुत उपदेश पूर्ण घटना गुड़िक मोर पिलादिन अजा सहित पाखे बीती थिला। किंतु अजा विषय मो पिला बेले प्रकृत में विशेष यही सब खाली से जन बड़ मनुष्य थे छड़ा विशेष किसी जानी नी जहाँ जानी विषय पढ़ी बहुत अन्य मानक लेखारू जानी। तेणु से सब विषय आम कि आज आपण मान उपस्थापित करूँ स्लाइड शो रे। थैंक यू नमस्कार। सुमी
हाँ
तो
अच्छी तो म्यूट है कि नहीं तो हाँ
तू एथर
हाँ तू कहबू ना स्लाइड देखा आगो तू तो कहबू ना आगो
हाँ मु आरंभ करुच्ची मु कहला परे
हाँ
तू तोर
हाँ
अच्छा आज अधिवेशन रे आमे पंडित नीलकंठ विषय आपन को किछि कथा कहबू तांकर कार्यक्रम ए सब विषय रे। एक्चुअली प्रेजेंटेशन टा किछिटा ओडिया रे एवं किछिटा इंग्लिश रे हबो। प्रथमे आमे किछि इंग्लिश रे जणैबो तापर तांको सत्यवादी जीवनटा आमे ओडिया रे जणैबू। तार कारण है जे केते गुडे जिनस ओडिया रे तांकर सुदूर दिल्ली रे बहुत गुडे काम से करथिले अन्य जो थिला से गुडा के टिके ओडिया रे ट्रांसलेट कहबा को असुविधा हबो। Plus it will reach a bigger audience, so we thought that we will go with a combination of both Odia and English. First, let us just understand who the person was. Actually, Nilakantha was really the son of Odisha, who was born in 1884 and breathed his last in 1967.
Slides
He was
होनी
स्लाइड देखो भाई
सुनि पारछो
स्लाइड देखो
स्लाइड देखा जाउनी
स्लाइड देखा जाउनी
ना
ना
ସେୟାର କରିବାକୁ
ସେୟାର କର
Screen share.
ତଳେ ଯାଇ ଦେଖିବି କି ମେସେଜ
କିଏ ଫୋନ କରିବ ନା
ଫୋନ ଅଛି ତମେ ଫୋନ ଅଛି ତ ସେତେବେଳେ କିଏ କଲା
ଓ yeah.
Tap କଲି ଦେଖାଯାଉଛି ନା ଦେଖାଯାଉନି?
ନା
ଆଜ୍ଞା,
ଦେଖାଯାଉନି।
ଆଜ୍ଞା। ଏବେ ଦେଖାଗଲା।
ଏବେ
ହଁ
ଦେଖା
ଏଇଲେ
ହଁ ଠିକ।
Okay.
ମେସେଜ ଦେଇ ଦେଖୁନାରି କମେ ଖାଲି
ସୁମିତ୍ରା ନାନୀ ଆପଣ ଅଡ଼ିଓଟା ଅନ୍ ଅଛି ତେଣୁ ଏବେ ଅଫ୍ ଯଦି କରିବେ କରନ୍ତୁ ନହେଲେ ଅଡ଼ିଓ ଅନ୍ ରଖିଥାନ୍ତୁ ଖାଲି ଟିକେ କ୍ୱାଏଟ୍ ରଖିବେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଏଇ ଯେଉଁ ଇଏଟା ଚାଲିଥିବ ଏଇ ଯେଉଁ
ହଁ ହଁ
ପ୍ରେଜେଣ୍ଟେସନଟା ଆଜ୍ଞା
ଠିକ ଅଛି, should I start now?
ଆଜ୍ଞା
Okay, so now we want to give a introduction about Pandit Nilakantha Das, though he does not really need an introduction. But the fact was he was born on 5th August 1884 and breathed his last on 6th of November 1967. He was the right-hand man of Pandit Gopalbandhu Das and a trusted of Kulabuddha Madhusudan from his young days. So here we are going to highlight some of his well-known contributions to Odisha and Odia language as related to those areas. Pandit Nilakantha was a polymath. Polymath in simple words means a person whose knowledge and talent spans many different and disparate fields, and he or she uses that knowledge to solve complex problems. Benjamin Franklin, Rabindranath Tagore, Leonardo da Vinci are some well-known polymaths. The areas in which Nilakantha made his undeniable marks include politics, literature, education, journalism, philosophy, etc. He helped bring the dreams of Madhubabu and Gopabandhu to fruition and taking it beyond that at Delhi Parliament by helping to make Odisha an independent province in 1936. At the home front, for the benefit and upliftment of Odia people, Nilakantha wrote many types of books, journal articles, calling for social reforms and similar things. He was also the famous headmaster of Satyavadi School in early 1900s. Nilakantha was also a great philosopher. He wrote Introduction to and Interpretation of Gita, as well as on Aryan life and philosophy. He wrote it in Odia for the benefit of Odia-speaking people in all corners of Odisha. Actually, his title, the Pandit, I want to say a little bit on that. Actually, as you see here, although Nilakantha was very well known for his unparalleled erudition, he was also a real Pandit in another sense. Because according to famous poet Gangadhar Meher, who has said, Matrubhumi Matrubhasare Mamata Jahrude Janami Nahi, Taku Jati Gyani Ganare Ganiba Agyani Rahibe Kahi. That means a Gyani or Pandit is one who truly loves his motherland and his mother tongue. Pandit Nilakantha was a true Pandit in that sense. Although he received many other titles in his action-filled life, such as Padma Bhushan, D.Lit, and even Utkal Guru, first conferred on him by Netaji Subhash Bose, he chose only to use the Pandit title throughout his life. And as a person, Pandit Nilakantha was often regarded as the most erudite person of 20th century Odisha. And in addition, he was a very independent-minded person or a Swadhinacheta Bhakti thile. All through his life, he followed his conscience, even occasionally at great personal cost to him. Pandit Nilakantha was also a great scholar, studying both old and modern books in various disciplines, often all night. It was joked that his brain was like a hard disk. everything he read gets stored there and was retrieved instantaneously when it was needed. And that was how he really could use all his different knowledge in different fields to come to a very correct solution to many difficult problems. Moreover, Pandit Nilakantha was also a very simple man who loved his village Sri Ramchandrapur and his village people. Whenever he would come home, no matter for how short a time, he would surround himself with the villagers to listen to their grievances and their concerns. In his appearance, at his old age, he resembled a rishi of ancient India. In many respects, personified it. He was also a great believer of Lord Jagannath, but he was not a ritualist. Actually, if we look into his personality, we found that his philosophy was such that he did not believe in rituals, but he believed in self-purification. He believed that that we must recognize the God that lives within us and to realize God's presence in all his creation. At the same time, he understood that people who are downtrodden, who are sick, and who are not really happy with their lives, they need a divine support for courage and self-confidence. So he asked them to believe in Lord Jagannath to help them. Although Nilakantha's action occurred almost a century ago, his own books and writings, as well as articles written about him by many famous people of his time, are available to anyone to know more about him. So here we are going to really present some of the things that other people have known and said about him and written down in his Smarakis. This Smarakis was notable among these. The books about him are written and published by Nilakantha Smarakis, which were published by Nilakantha Smriti Samiti, established in 1980, specifically to preserve Nilakantha's legacy. The first four of these books, the top four here, they contain sets of articles written by many prominent people of Odisha and some of India as well. The rest are analysis of Nilakantha's role as a philosopher, a philologist, a poet, or as children's literature. These Smarakis and many of Nilakantha's books and journal articles have been digitized by the Smriti Samiti and also by the excellent digital repository known as Odia Vibhava, from where they could be downloaded free of charge. And a few of his bills and political actions were published by Delhi Assembly and Odisha Assembly as well. And the major part of the information in this presentation is derived from those sources. You may also find a high-level presentation of Pandit Nilakantha in his Wikipedia page. Here are some quotes by many famous people about Nilakantha. The first one is from Dr. Sadasiv Misra, who was the renowned Vice Chancellor of Utkal University and Principal of Ravenshaw College, who was a student of and a great admirer of Pandit Nilakantha. In this statement here, where he has said that it is highly inappropriate to partition Pandit Nilakantha as a literature, social reformer, politician, etc. We cannot do that. All these aspects are indivisible. Nilakantha's intellect is an all-encompassing blossom. Actually, that really exemplifies the multi-talented man whose all sides came together to make him the unique person that he was. Similarly, Dr. Satyanarayan Rajguru, the famous archaeologist from Ganjam and a follower of Nilakantha, describes Nilakantha's love for his motherland. He said Nilakantha regarded Odisha as his mother and India as his grandmother. And the last one we present here is a quote by Dr. Janaki Vallabh Patnaik, the ex-chief minister of Odisha, who was talking about Nilakantha's independent streak. And he really says, that he never really followed the path of other people. He did whatever he really had to do to reach his goal. And that is what sets him, people like him, apart from ordinary folks. These are just some of the things I'm quoting here. There are many more in the Smarakis and other places written about him. So now we are going to, really throw some light on the actions or the contributions of this person and why, he was so highly regarded by his contemporaries. I said here part 1 because we are only going to present, a few things about his actions, about his political actions today. To really give you some understanding of what he did or why he did, how he did it, we have to give you the backdrop about the Odisha in the early 20th century. And so that we understand, the social, political, and educational atmosphere of Odisha at that time. And that was really late 19th century and early 20th century, based on which all their actions were really founded. So as we see here, before 1912, there is no land called Odisha or Orissa in the political map of India. The once mighty empire, which fought against the British till the last, was already fragmented into 3 major parts and attached to the neighboring British presidencies, that is Madras, the Central Province, and Bengal. Except in the coastal region, people were forced to do all official and school transitions in the area's local languages. As a result, Odias had become poor, ignorant, superstitious, and dispirited. Odia language was threatened, and the region was and regarded was an offshoot of Bengali. Then in 1912, the coastal regions and Sambalpur were put under Bihar, and it was called Bihar Odisha sub-province. But it still retained its lower status in everything, and people still suffered greatly. Then Madhababu, Gopabandhu Das, and the other leaders tried to unite all Odia-speaking regions. It was known as the amalgamation of Odia-speaking regions, and they wanted to make that amalgamated region a sub-province under another state. And you may wonder why they wanted to make it a sub-province. That was because Odisha lacked revenue to support it as a province. It was very poor, so they thought that at least half a loaf is better than none, and wanted to make it a sub-province at least, so that all parts would come together. And during that period, Nilakantha was born in 1884. He was born in Sakhigopal, Puri, and had witnessed the majority of his motherland from his young days. Luckily, when he was a student in at Puri Jilla School, he met with Gopabandhu Das. He met Gopabandhu in the home of a great patriot named Muktiar Ramchandra Das. Gopabandhu was a law student at that time and 7 years older to Nilakantha. Nilakantha was greatly inspired by Gopabandhu, who became his mentor. Then one evening in 1902, on the cholera-infested bank of river Bhargavi near Puri, Nilakantha and 2 of his young relatives took an oath with Gopabandhu to dedicate their lives to change the pitiable situation of their motherland Odisha, and they all strived to keep their oath. So let us see how Nilakantha tried to keep his oath, and he played many roles to make his dream come true. So all his actions and achievements throughout his life were focused on keeping these roles. Being a highly intelligent person and a high achiever, he worked in many different fronts simultaneously, which we see here. And today, due to time constraint, we will focus upon the first two. That is his role as a teacher at Satyavadi High School, and then as a politician for the independence of Utkal province. So now let us discuss his contributions as a teacher. Sumit, you can go ahead and talk about it.
ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠ ସବୁବେଳେ କହନ୍ତି ଶିକ୍ଷକତା ମୋ ଜୀବନର ସବୁଠୁ ବେଶୀ ସୁଖମୟ ସମୟ ଥିଲା। ସେ ତାଙ୍କ ଜୀବନୀରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ସତ୍ୟବାଦୀ ସ୍କୁଲ ଛାଡି କରି ଗଲେ ତାଙ୍କର ଜୀବନର ଗୋଟେ ବିରାଟ ଅଧ୍ୟାୟ ସରିଗଲା। ତେଣୁ ସେ ସତ୍ୟବାଦୀ ବନବିଦ୍ୟାଳୟରେ ବହୁତ ଗୁଢ ଭାବେ ନିଜକୁ ନିୟୋଜିତ କରିଥିଲେ। ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ମୁଁ ସତ୍ୟବାଦୀ ବନବିଦ୍ୟାଳୟ ବିଷୟରେ ଟିକେ କହୁଛି। ଗୋପବନ୍ଧୁଙ୍କ ମନରେ ଭାବନା ଥିଲା ନୂତନ ଯୁବ ସମାଜ ମାତୃଭୂମିର ଦୁଃଖ ଦୁର୍ଦ୍ଦଶା ମୋଚନ କରିବାରେ ପ୍ରୟାସିତ ହୁଅନ୍ତୁ। ତେଣୁ ସେପରି ଉଚ୍ଚକୋଟୀର ଛାତ୍ର ପ୍ରସ୍ତୁତ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ସେ ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠ ଓ ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ବନ୍ଧୁମାନଙ୍କୁ ନେଇ ଗୋଟିଏ ଆଦର୍ଶ ବିଦ୍ୟାଳୟ ତିଆରି କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଚିନ୍ତା କଲେ। ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ବିଭିନ୍ନ ସ୍ଥାନରେ ଜାଗା ଖୋଜା ହେଲା। ପରେ ଭକ୍ତ କବି ମଧୁସୂଦନ ରାଓଙ୍କର ପରାମର୍ଶ କ୍ରମେ ସାକ୍ଷୀଗୋପାଳର ବକୁଳ ବନରେ ସେ ସ୍କୁଲଟି ପ୍ରତିଷ୍ଠା ହେବାର ଠିକ ହେଲା। ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠ ହେଡମାଷ୍ଟର ଭାବେ ଓ ସେ ସମୟର ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ପ୍ରତିଷ୍ଠିତ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତିମାନେ ଶିକ୍ଷକ ଭାବେ ଯୋଗଦାନ ହେଲା। ଗୋପବନ୍ଧୁଙ୍କର ଏହି ଆଦର୍ଶ ବିଦ୍ୟାଳୟ ଗଢିବାର ସ୍ୱପ୍ନକୁ ସଫଳ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠ କିପରି ଭାବରେ ସାହାଯ୍ୟ କରିଥିଲେ ଏଥିରେ ମୁଁ ଟିକେ କହୁଛି। ସ୍କୁଲ ପ୍ରତିଷ୍ଠା ହେଲା 1909 କୁମାର ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣମୀ ଦିନ। ସ୍କୁଲ ହେଲା ଏକ ଛୋଟ ଚାଳ ଘରରେ। ସ୍କୁଲ ପାଇଁ ବେଞ୍ଚ ଚୌକି ଲାଇବ୍ରେରୀ ଆଦି ସମସ୍ତ ଆବଶ୍ୟକୀୟ ସରଞ୍ଜାମ ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠଙ୍କର ଗ୍ରାମ ଶ୍ରୀରାମଚନ୍ଦ୍ରପୁରରୁ ଆସିଥିଲା। ପ୍ରଥମେ 7 ଜଣ ଛାତ୍ର ସ୍କୁଲରେ ଯୋଗ ଦେଇଥିଲେ। ପରେ ବହୁ ଛାତ୍ର ଆସିଲେ। ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠ MA ପଢିବା ପାଇଁ କଲିକତା ଗଲେ, କାରଣ ସେ ପ୍ରଧାନ ଶିକ୍ଷକ ଦାୟିତ୍ୱ ନେବା ପୂର୍ବରୁ ନିଜର ଦୃଷ୍ଟି ଓ ଅଭିଜ୍ଞତା ବଢାଇବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଥିଲେ। ତାପରେ ସେ 1911ରେ MA ପାସ୍ କରି ଆସି କୁଳପତି ବା ହେଡମାଷ୍ଟର ଭାବରେ ଯୋଗ ଦେଲେ। ସ୍କୁଲରେ ଯୋଗ ଦେଇ 27 ବର୍ଷ ବୟସ୍କ ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠ ସ୍କୁଲର ସମସ୍ତ ବିଷୟର ଦାୟିତ୍ୱ ନେଲେ। କାରଣ ଗୋପବନ୍ଧୁ ସ୍କୁଲ ପାଇଁ ଫଣ୍ଡ ରେଜ୍ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ସବୁବେଳେ ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଅଞ୍ଚଳର ଧନାଢ୍ୟ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତିଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ ଯାଉଥିଲେ। ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠଙ୍କର ଗ୍ରାମ ସ୍କୁଲର ଅତି ନିକଟରେ ହେଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ ସେ ଘରେ ନ ରହି ସ୍କୁଲର ଗୋଟିଏ ମାଟି କୋଠରୀରେ ରହୁଥିଲେ। ତାଙ୍କର ଗୋଟିଏ ଛୋଟ ଖଟ ଥିଲା ଓ ତାର ଚାରିକଡେ ନାନା ପୁସ୍ତକ ମାନ ଜମା ହୋଇ ରହୁଥିଲା। ସିଏ ସବୁ ବହି ସେ ଆଗ ନିଜେ ପଢି ପିଲାଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ସୁପାରିଶ କରୁଥିଲେ। ସ୍କୁଲରେ ସେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟିଏ ଅତି ଉଚ୍ଚ କୋଟି ଧରଣର ଲାଇବ୍ରେରୀ ଥିଲା। ତାର ନାମ ହରିହର ଲାଇବ୍ରେରୀ। ହରିହର ଲାଇବ୍ରେରୀ କାହିଁ ତା ନାଁ ହେଲା, ପଣ୍ଡିତ ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠଙ୍କ ଗ୍ରାମର ତାଙ୍କରି କୁଟୁମ୍ବର ଜଣେ ପଣ୍ଡିତ ହରିହର ଦାସ, ଯିଏ ଆଜିର ପୁରୀର ସଂସ୍କୃତ କଲେଜର ପ୍ରତିଷ୍ଠାତା, ଜଣେ ବହୁତ ପଣ୍ଡିତ ଥିଲେ। ଆଉ ସିଏ ମୁକ ହୋଇଯାଇଥିଲେ। ତାପରେ 32 ବର୍ଷ ବୟସରେ ସେ ଦୀପରୁ ନିଆଁ ଜଳି ମରି ଯାଇଥିଲେ। କିନ୍ତୁ ସେ ଗୋପବନ୍ଧୁ ତାଙ୍କର ଅତ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଭକ୍ତ ଥିଲେ ଆଉ ସେ ଅତି ପଣ୍ଡିତ ଥିଲେ। ତେଣୁ ତାଙ୍କ ନାମରେ ସେ ଲାଇବ୍ରେରୀଟା ହୋଇଥିଲା। ତା ନାମ ହରିହର ଲାଇବ୍ରେରୀ। ସେଥିରେ ବହୁ ପ୍ରାଚୀନ କାଳର ଭାଷା ଓ ଧର୍ମ ଉପରେ ଲିଖିତ ବହିମାନ ଥିଲା। ଏଇଠି ଦେଖିପାରିବେ ଏ ଫଟୋରେ ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠ ମଧୁବାବୁଙ୍କ ଉତ୍କଳ ସମ୍ମିଳନୀ ପଗଡି ପିନ୍ଧି ସେ ଲାଇବ୍ରେରୀରେ ବସିଛନ୍ତି। ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠ ଓ ଅନ୍ୟ ଶିକ୍ଷକ ମାନେ ଆଦର୍ଶବାଦୀ ଥିଲେ। ଛାତ୍ରବାସରେ ସମସ୍ତ ଛାତ୍ର ଜାତି ଧର୍ମ ବର୍ଣ୍ଣ ନିର୍ବିଶେଷରେ ଏକାଠି ବସି ଖାଉଥିଲେ। ରକ୍ଷଣଶୀଳ ଲୋକମାନେ ବ୍ରାହ୍ମଣ ଅବ୍ରାହ୍ମଣଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଅଲଗା ଭୋଜନ ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା କରିବା ପାଇଁ କହିଲେ। ନୀଳକଣ୍ଠ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଉତ୍ତର ଦେଇଥିଲେ, କୁଳଗୃହର ସମସ୍ତ ଅନ୍ତେବାସୀଙ୍କର ମୁଁ କୁଳପତି। ମୁଁ ଏ ପୁତ୍ରମାନଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ବର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଧର୍ମ ଭେଦ କରିପାରିବି ନାହିଁ, କ୍ଷମା କରନ୍ତୁ। ସେଥିରେ ସେମାନେ ରାଗି ଯାଇ ନିକଟବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ଗ୍ରାମ ମାନଙ୍କର ନୈଷ୍ଠିକ ବ୍ରାହ୍ମଣ ମାନେ ସ୍କୁଲ ଓ ଲାଇବ୍ରେରୀକୁ ପୋଡିଦେଲେ। ସେଥିରେ ହତଛାନ ହୋଇ ଗୋପବନ୍ଧୁଙ୍କ ନିର୍ଦ୍ଦେଶରେ ତା ପରଦିନ ବକୁଳ ଗଛ ମାନଙ୍କର ମୂଳରେ କ୍ଲାସର ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଲା। ପରେ ସେଠାରେ କୋଠାଘର ହୋଇ ସ୍କୁଲ ହେଲା। ସ୍କୁଲରେ ଶିକ୍ଷା ଓ ଚରିତ୍ର ଉଭୟ ବିଷୟରେ ଦୃଷ୍ଟି ଦିଆଯାଉଥିଲା। ବେଶଭୂଷାରେ ସରଳତା, ନିରାଡମ୍ବର ବ୍ୟବହାର ପ୍ରଭୃତି ଉପରେ ପ୍ରାଧାନ୍ୟତା ଥିଲା। ଛାତ୍ରମାନେ ସ୍କୁଲର ଅନେକ କାମ ନିଜ ହାତରେ କରିବା ସହିତ ରୋଗୀ ସେବା, ସ୍ୱାସ୍ଥ୍ୟ ରକ୍ଷା, ବ୍ୟାୟାମ ଇତ୍ୟାଦି ମଧ୍ୟ ଶିକ୍ଷା ଲାଭ କରୁଥିଲେ। ଶିକ୍ଷକମାନେ ସେ ସବୁଥିରେ ଛାତ୍ରମାନଙ୍କୁ ସାହାଯ୍ୟ କରୁଥିଲେ। ମୂଳରୁ ସମାଜ ସେବା, ରୋଗୀ ସେବା ସ୍କୁଲର ଏକ ପ୍ରଧାନ ଅଂଶ ଥିଲା। ସ୍କୁଲ ତରଫରୁ ହୋମିଓପାଥି ଔଷଧର ପ୍ରଚଳନ ସେ ଅଞ୍ଚଳରେ ହେଲା। ଶିକ୍ଷକ ଓ ଛାତ୍ରମାନେ ସୁବିଧା असुविधा समय निकटस्थ ग्रामवासी मानक साहाय्य करुले पिलामानंकर सुविधा और केन्द्र परीक्षा प्रस्तुति पाई नीलकंठ निजे मध्य केते बही लिखिथिले से निजे ऑप्टिक्स उपरे पढ़ी पिलांक पई ए हैंडबुक ऑफ मॉडल ड्राइंग लिखिथिले जहाकि पिलामानंकु बहुत साहाय्य करिथिला पिलामानंकर उन्नति पाई स्कूल रो आलोचना सभा वक्तृता प्रतियोगिता सब हेउथला स्कूल रो मासिक पत्रिका सत्यवादी रे नीलकंठ अन्य शिक्षक और छात्र माने मध्य उच्च कोटिर प्रबंध और लेखा मान प्रकाश करुथिले क्लासरूम रे शिक्षा छाड़ी देई एस्ट्रोनॉमी पढ़ाया पाई नीलकंठ राति रे पिलांकु नै बिल मझिरे ग्रह तारा इत्यादि सह परिचित कराउथिले मानचित्र धरी सेमानंक गतिविधि बुझाउथिले नीलकंठ अन्य शिक्षक माने अनेक छात्रंकु को नहीं पार्श्ववर्ती दर्शनीय स्थान मानकु जाउथिले कोणार्क खंडगिरी उदयगिरी और नीलमाधव भ्रमण सेथि मध्यरे उल्लेखयोग्य पिलामानंकु देश प्राण रे उद्बुद्ध करिया पई परे से समय लिखित कोणार्क बहिर प्रथम भाग रामचंडी रे राति एबे मध्य अतुलनीय पिलांक चरित्र गठन रे साहाय्य करियाकु नीलकंठ स्कूल रो प्रार्थना बही भक्तिगाथा लिखिथिले आर्य जीवन रो लक्ष्य कोन ताहा बुझाया पई से आर्यजीव नामक बही लिखिथिले से बही परे विख्यात हिंदी साहित्यिक जैनेन्द्र कुमार द्वारा हिंदी रे अनुवाद होइथिला पिलांकर चरित्र गठन नीलकंठ निजे निजर व्यक्तित्व मध्य उल्लेखयोग्य थरे से अनेक छात्रों को नहीं खंडपड़ार नीलमाधव ठाकुर को देखाइबा पई पदयात्रा करथिले सेमाने को भेटिबा पई खंडपड़ा राजा किछि दूर को सगड़ियांक सह 40 टी सगड़ पठाइथिले नीलकंठ सगड़िया मानक ठारु जानिले जे सेमाने बेठी रे आछंती फଳରେ नीलकंठ सेमाने को फेराई देइथिले और राजा को बेठी सगड़ व्यवहार करिवे नाही बोली खबर देले परे राजा क्षमा मागी सगड़िया मानक पई पारिश्रमिक पठाइथिले सत्यवादी स्कूल प्रशंसा जोगु अनेक विख्यात व्यक्ति ताहाको लेखियाको आसुथिले पिलामानकर कृतित्व जोगु एहाको मनीष तैयारी कारखाना मध्य कुहा जाउथला प्रतिवर्ष स्कूल वार्षिक सम्मेलन को बहु मान्यगण्य व्यक्ति आसंती थरे कुलवृद्ध मधुसूदन दास सभापति भावे आसीथिले से सब देखि से शेषरे कहिले गोपबंधु तू नालंदाटाए गढ़ी देलु उत्तर रे गोपबंधु कहिथिले मु नुहे नीलकंठ 1918 अनेक कारण जोगु सत्यवादी वनविद्यालय अवसान घटिला गोपबंधु नीलकंठ इत्यादि महात्मा गांधी असहयोग आंदोलन में जोग देवा प्रस्तुत हेले तेणु एथिरु अनेक से सब बेले छात्र मानक पई मध्य बहुत छोट छोट पद्य भरिका लिखुथिले से छात्र पिरतिता भी जना पड़े तेणु एतिकी मु सत्यवादी विषय कहली बर्तमान नानी तांकर राजनैतिक विषय किछ कह
एक्चुअली एठी हमें टिके भी कहिबा जे ए सत्यवादी स्कूल ले थिला बेले से पिला मन को केतिके भल पाउथिले तांकर ए केते गुडिए उद्धृत कविता बा चिठीर उद्धृत अंशरू आमे जानि परिबा जे सेटा तांकर सांग मान को लिखिथिले इटे आपण देखिबे रामचंडी ठारे राति और सकाळ रे तापरे सुमित्रा कहवा अनुसार से सत्यवादी स्कूलटा सब बेले तांको पाखरे जीवंत थिला तेणु ताको सेइटाई तांको जीवनर श्रेष्ठ समय बोली से सब दिने भाबिचंती तेणु वर्तमान आमे तांकर पॉलिटिकल लाइफ उपरे वी आर गोइंग टू से फ्यू थिंग्स सो द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन कम्स is a person who was such a dedicated teacher and loved his students so much, how he got into politics, what was the motivation and what was the outcome. So after the fall of Satyavadi Vanavidyalaya, Nilakantha went to Calcutta University in 1920 to teach really Oriental history, Oriental language there at the request of the Vice Chancellor of the university, Sir Asutosh Mukherjee. But during that time, two important developments happened. One was Gandhiji started his non-cooperation movement with the British government. Moreover, the other important thing was the British government in England wanted to give Indians some voice in ruling of their country and thus establish the Central Legislative Assembly or the Parliament in Delhi. At this critical juncture, in Indian history, Nilakantha could not stay put as a professor in Calcutta. He resigned from his post and with Gopabandhu joined the non-cooperation movement in 1921, soon inviting Gandhiji to Odisha. In total, he was jailed 4 times, and when he was busy with this movement, 2 of his young daughters died at home on separate occasions, and Nilakantha came to know of their deaths only afterwards. And at that time, Nilakantha felt that Odisha needed strong representation at Delhi Parliament to plead the case of Odisha to British government, and he decided to go to Delhi. While in the Hazaribagh jail in Bihar, he conferred with Gopabandhu, with whom he consulted on every major undertaking, and then he decided to contest for a parliament seat from Bihar, Odisha. His goal was not just to amalgamate the Odia-speaking regions as a sub-province under Bihar or any other province, but to make it an independent province by its own right. So now the question that naturally comes to mind was, what were the hurdles facing the amalgamation of Odia-speaking regions and also in Odisha becoming an independent province? Well, there are several strong reasons. The first one was, for amalgamation, one has to prove that those Vichinanchalas were really originally part of pre-British Odisha, and their language and culture were the same, and they have to present it to the British government. And what is the linguistic provenance? That is the scientific study of a language focusing on systemic investigation of its characteristics and properties. So they have to show that all these people from different parts really belong to a culture or a society. They have their language was one of their binding forces. Second, even if you could prove that the neighboring states to which Odisha was really annexed, those states would not really like to give up those parts because they considered it as their own region. So that was another big hurdle. Then the third thing was, even if you could prove those things, it has to be presented as a strong case at Delhi Central Assembly, so that only then the British government may, consider it and accept the demand. And finally, last but not the least, making this amalgamated but extremely poor region with very little revenue to support itself as an independent province, because Odisha was always exploited by all the different states under which it was there, and in general people were poor and they had no real backbone for doing much for their own upliftment. So Nilakantha wanted to go to Delhi and fight for Odisha. He got elected as a member of the Congress party at that time. The Congress party had 2 factions. The side led by Gandhiji, called non-changers, only practiced non-cooperation with the British government, but did not take part in political process. The other side, called pro-changers, led by Pandit Motilal Nehru, wanted to take part in legislative process to pass new laws and to help India. So Nilakantha contested and was elected to Delhi Assembly from Bihar, Odisha in 1924, and also elected as the party's secretary. This is how and why the beloved teacher became a fighting politician. And he went to Delhi to really achieve those goals. Okay. Once Nilakantha went to Delhi, he became really very well known there soon. And due to his thorough knowledge and powerful arguments, he earned the respect of many Indian leaders and became known as the Lion of Odisha. Here are some pictures of his friends, Sukla and Iyengar and R.S. Sukla. Here is Nilakantha. And here is also Nilakantha and with many members of the Delhi Assembly. But the two pictures here on the right side, they are the India's finance ministers at Delhi, Dr. Moody, Moodyman, this is Dr. Alexander Moodyman. And the thing is, Nilakantha always had to interact with them. They were the ones in charge of finance. So Odisha, making Odisha an independent province, there was not enough revenue. So they are persuading Nilakantha to accept it as a sub-province. And they even offered him, a SAR title to accept it. But of course, that was not Nilakantha's goal. So he did not accept that. And Nilakantha was in the Delhi Assembly for about 20 years until 1945. His major moves for Odisha at that time was his introduction of a bill on the 8th of February 1927, pleading for an independent Odisha province. He said, "I stand here not for a language alone, but for a language linked to a culture." And this is something that was very important because as he said at that time, there are more than 6,000 languages in India, and not all of them could be, those language speaking people could demand their own state. But Odisha was separate or was really special because it was not just the language, but it has a very great culture really associated with it. And Odias knew how to cohabulate and how to really reconcile with different ideas, different religious beliefs, different status, and live together happily and peacefully, promoting Jagannath culture and binding, that was one of the binding forces among them. And he said it is not only, for the good of Odisha, that it should be a special province, separate province, but it has a lot to offer to India itself, which was rife with all sorts of communal disturbances and things like that. So that is how he pleaded there. And that reasoning was extremely well received in Odisha and beyond, and it was published by many Indian newspapers. But at that time, that bill did not pass, again for financial reasons, because Odisha did not have enough revenue. The other thing he did was in 1928, in in Indian National Congress convention, Pandit Motilal Nehru to forward certain resolutions about different things for India to the British government, and he did not give any importance to the case of Odisha and did not want to forward it. So Nilakantha forced Motilal Nehru to adopt the Odisha Province Resolution, threatening a walkout otherwise. And so finally, Gandhiji had to really be the mediator and convince Motilal to forward that resolution, and that's how it went to the British Parliament for consideration. There is another very interesting thing here, that Nilakantha had demanded to abolish salt tax on people of coastal Odisha. And it is very interesting to know that there is one article in Gujarat's News, one of Gujarat's magazines, that Gandhi really got the idea of staging his salt satyagraha from Nilakantha's original demand for Odisha. And this article really describes it, that whatever Nilakantha really proposed it only for Odisha, the people, the coastal Odisha people, saying it is not a luxury item, it is a basic necessity of life, and you cannot impose taxes on that. And then Gandhiji, took it from a small provincial cause to a national cause. First, he wanted to really start his salt satyagraha in Odisha, but his people and himself were not very familiar with Odia and the language and all that. So he really did it in Dandi in Gujarat. But that is a very interesting thing to note. Then another another interesting thing was he was really appointed by the government to represent Delhi University Senate, because the parliament has one representative to be there, and they chose Nilakantha because he was a very highly qualified academician, and he was there at Delhi University for 7 years. And you'll see how it helped us later. And he was also a champion of the labor class. As we have said before, he was always, very supportive of them, and he tried to pass many bills to help them. He had also sponsored a bill for the return of Netaji Subhas from Vienna, Austria, to come back to India. And Nilakantha was regarded as one of the eminent parliamentarians at the center before independence for his powerful speeches and debates and things. And you can see that there is a publication at Delhi University called Eminent Parliament and Monograph Series, which contains, some of his really important speeches. And it is a great honor to have him recognized as an eminent parliamentarian there. It is not only that, but there are also some major roles Nilakantha played for the unification of Odisha. One is, he was instrumental in bringing the southern Odisha and the Ganjam region, which was annexed to Andhra, and he was able to join it back with Odisha by defeating Andhra Historical Society members in an argument. It is a very interesting topic by itself. And those days, so many leaders and people of Ganjam revered Nilakantha for that, because of his indisputable arguments. Andhra had to relinquish the claim to southern Odisha. And finally, after many more bills, proofs, government commissions, etc., in 1935, Odisha was approved. The approval came in 1935 for Odisha to be independent province, and it had to start from the fiscal year of April 1st, 1936. Nilakantha had requested for a grant of 80 lakhs really, to jumpstart the new province. But the government sanctioned only 40 lakhs because they had to give 40 lakhs to Sindh province, which was created at the same time on religious ground. After Odisha became an independent province in 1936, many people thought that Nilakantha would become its first chief minister, but it didn't happen on some technical grounds, and Nilakantha had no issue with that because his goal was never to be a chief minister. However, after 1945, due to several reasons, Nilakantha took leave from politics and turned to his other life interest, that is, working on scientific study of Odia language, structure, grammar, etc., and writing many books on that line. So as you see here, that in 1936, Odisha became an independent province on April 1st. And if you know, Gopabandhu and Badhu Babu had died long before that. Gopabandhu died in 1928 and Madhu Babu died in 1934, but he was not well and didn't take part in active politics for the last few years of his life. But Nilakantha strived to make their dreams come true. It is not really the labor of these three leaders, but there are many, many people, both known and unknown, both rich and poor, who had taken part in making this dream come true and making Odisha an independent province. And some of them we know, some of them we do not know. But they have given they have passed the baton to the new generation, and it is up to the new generation of ODS to carry that mantle and take it forward and make Odisha be proud, not only within India, but also in the world sphere. It is up to them how they carry that torch and take Odisha in the right direction. But we are not done yet. We are not yet done with Nilakantha's contributions to Odisha after the formation of Odisha province. His contributions in building the Utkal University, in founding the Utkal University, has also to be understood. Actually, at that time, when Odisha was made a special province, there was not enough money to for founding a university there. So Nilakantha accepted it. But soon after, he argued with the British government that Odisha must have a university, because he said an independent state needs its own university to educate its people for self-determination. So that time, Palla Maharaja was the Chief Minister of Odisha. That time it was called Prime Minister, and Pandit Godavari Misra was the Education Minister. They both were Nilakantha's good friends. So he worked with them to really build a university in Odisha, and he provided a detailed blueprint for the university. And that was based on his experience at Delhi University in Sydney. And there was nobody more qualified than him at that time to really present this case and provide this kind of a detailed plan to build the university. So finally, their efforts came to fruition in 1943, and Utkal University was founded. And here is the homage the Utkal University had paid to its main architect, Pandit Nilakantha. It said, "Deo Kulaburdha Duradarshi Mahapurusha Nutana." Actually, he had argued that se kahithile je गोटे यूनिवर्सिटी न हेले शिक्षक मिलिबे कहूं पिला मन को पढ़े कि नुआ आदर्श नुआ चिंतारे अनुप्राणित करने को कोठ लोक आसीबे तेणु सेति पे गोटे बड़ यूनिवर्सिटी हमर ओडिसा रे हेबा निहाती दरकार तेणु उत्कल यूनिवर्सिटी पछरे ताकू सेति पे बहुत सम्मान देखैछि एंड एटा ताकर गोटे उत्कल यूनिवर्सिटी रे गोटे publication जो थे कि semane तांकर निजर नीलकंठकर पवित्र स्मृति श्रुति पाई तांकर भक्तिपूत श्रद्धांजलि अर्पण करछंती. And even if Odisha, he was working in Delhi, he also was very active in Odisha in its in various political fronts. He was in Delhi during assembly sessions, but spent rest of his time in Odisha helping and taking part in many activities, both at home as a politician, journalist, social reformer, etc., all geared towards improving the fate of Odisha people. He also helped the Central Congress Party, Gandhiji, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Subhas Bose, etc., to come to Odisha and canvass there. As we mentioned before, he took 5 or 6 years leave from politics, but later in 1950s, early 1950s, he came back to Odisha's political field as an independent candidate to help guide the young, inexperienced politicians in the right direction. The then Chief Minister Navakrishnan Chaudhary and others wanted him to come back to Congress to help them. Afterwards, in 1957, he was elected the Speaker of Odisha Assembly at the request of the party leaders. And there he was revered like an ancient rishi for his brilliance, impartiality, and judgments. He finally retired from politics at the age of 76 in 1961 due to failing health. So this really covers most of his political work for Odisha and India, both in Delhi as well as in Bhubaneswar. So naturally, there are many political tributes given to him. One of the most important ones was given by Professor N.G. Ranga, his colleague and the deputy leader of Congress in Lok Sabha. He said that Pandit Nilakantha Das, the national leader, is veritably the father of Odisha, is the veritable father of Odisha. And he said that because he was from Andhra, and Andhra, though it was with Madras, and though they are culturally very different, Andhra did not get its independent province status long after Odisha was given that. 10 years or longer, Andhra had to wait. And Ranga said because there was no strong leader in Andhra, like Pandit Nilakantha, to present the case for Andhra and fight with the government. And so he had a lot of respect for Nilakantha for what he achieved in 1936 for Odisha. And here are some attributes from the Odisha Assembly and something on his birthday. But here it is important to note that the Sansad Vichar is a publication by the Odisha University, Odisha Assembly, where there are many things about Nilakantha, his lectures and his presentations, his debates. They were really recorded and it was given to people as an example of, how people should really, how the legislators should really be talking about. And there is a photojournal of his life. And important also, there is an annual summon called Nilakantha Samman that was given to the best legislator every year. And there are also two other awards, one for Gopabandhu and one for Madhusudan, but Nilakantha's was for best legislator. And our president of India, Draupadi Murmu, got it in 2007. Here are some more pictures where Rajendra Prasad was offering him, was really working with him for the Odisha Sahitya Academy. And this is an important tribute from Jagannath Agrawal of Tata Iron and Steel, showing his obedience to a tribute to Nilakantha, because Nilakantha was instrumental when he was in Delhi in saving Tata Iron and Steel, because the British government was trying to really import steel from other countries and not to really promote, steel manufacturing in India, and saying that we do not have enough raw material and other things. But Nilakantha, because he was really very knowledgeable in Odisha's history, geography, geology, and all those things, so he could put the argument with proper, pointers that no, we can do it. And so the Tata Steel and Iron and Steel was really saved by him. This is just, some of his friends and his colleagues and his mentors, you see here. There are many more, but I just, put a few here. Then now that we have talked about, a lot of his work in the political sphere and also as a teacher, now how does Odisha would remember him? Because that is very important. But really, we do not have to do anything to remember him. His own work, his own literary creations, his own wills, they are enough to remind us about him. He has made enough contributions in all these fields for which he will always be remembered if people really are interested. And so we'll be maybe touch upon these things at some other time, but today we'll not be going into those things in detail. And here are some of his books. We are just, showing the names, and these are the areas in which those things have dealt with, and research on Odia language and journals. His publication Nabhabharat was the gold standard for journalism at that time. And last but not the least, he tried to simplify Odia Lipi, especially Juktakhar, for its continuity. He was afraid that because of the complexities of the Juktakhar, kids will not be interested after a while to learn Odia. And we can see that. and also to make typing easier. So he really had prescribed the Lipi Sanskar. There is a book about him, but unfortunately, Odisha government first were interested in that, but later on they did not want to really implement that. He was also the founder and first president of Odisha Sahitya Academy in 1957 and received the Central Sahitya Academy Award for his autobiography in 1964. And these are just some pictures of the books I talked about, their front pages. So if somebody is interested, they can really get access to these things. They exist in electronic form, most of them. So how really Odisha paid homage to this great son of God? Well, after his death in 1967, he was buried in the Panchasakha Cremation Ground Memorial Park in Sakhiguppa. And on his samadhi, this is the writing there, which says, "Keun raijaru asichu kah batasi more, Odia boito khabara kichi anichu kire, Nila bichi bhangi anuchu, tori barusa dhara, Kala bichi bhangi smarana, dure jauchi pora." That shows his pride and his nostalgia for the seafaring Odias of the 10th, 11th century. And he was trying to inspire the Odia children that you do not forget your past. This is your past. You remember it and you march ahead, bring back that old glory. So that was in his, samadhi. There is also Nilakantha Smriti Samiti, which holds, memorials, lectures, school competition, other things, and publishes informative articles about him. It is still very active in Bhubaneswar. So that is how also his legacy is maintained. And there is the Wikipedia article, as I said. You can really access to get a more well-rounded overview of his actions in every field. And finally, if you want the references, there are many references based upon which this article was prepared. And those references are really taken from are really in the Wikipedia articles in the reference section. So I do not want to repeat it here. And finally, I want to thank Kalinga History and all of you for giving us the opportunity to present this information to you. And thank you very much. So now the floor is all yours. I think I'm done.